Hello and welcome to Find Your Freedom, a podcast dedicated to helping you truly find freedom in all aspects of life. Join your hosts and their expert guests as they share practical tips and strategies for finding more freedom in your life. It's time to take control of your life and create the future you want. Let's find your freedom. Here are your hosts, Lenny the Boss and Omid Rad Investor.
Boom, we are back with another amazing episode of Find Your Freedom. And before we bring on our next guest, I'm going to tell you, this show and this episode is being brought to you by Wealth Builders Mortgage Group. Now, Omid is not with us today, but Omid and myself, we both use them for any mortgage, our home, our rental property, short-term rentals, long-term rentals, anything that you need. That is your shop. I'm telling you, listen, just tell them Lenny the Boss and they'll take care of you. You heard it from me first. So with that being said, man, we're going to jump into something, the number one question, and this guy that we're going to bring on right now solves this question, right? The number one question everyone asks is, where should I buy? What market should I be in? How can I collect all this money? Where is my properties going to grow the most in equity? How can I get all this cash flow? How can I get top occupancy rate? Let me tell you, Kenny Bedwell and the system that he got going on solves that. And I'm so thrilled, Parker's so thrilled that he took time out of his day to sit here and come on the podcast just to share some behind the scenes insight. So with that being said, Kenny, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Lenny. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm really excited. I love the energy. This is going to be fun.
Awesome. Yeah, man. Kenny, we know that you're the man in the space, and we really want to get that question answered.
Okay.
And also share a little more about your background. But I guess tell us, man. Where did you grow up at, man?
Yeah, so I grew up in I've lived in a lot of places, but I grew up in Georgia. So I'm from the southeast, but I've lived
Go
in
by your accent.
yeah, my accent. Well, hey, I grew up in Savannah, Georgia. That's how
There
we
you
talk.
go.
Yeah, but I moved to Colorado. I lived in Colorado for a little bit, then Utah, and that's kind of where my accent was lost. Funny story, when I was living in Utah, everyone was like, "Are you from Canada?" Because I had this like kind of like it's a Georgia Southern draw. And so I had to tighten up on, some of my words. So, my friends really made fun of me when I said biscuits, I was like, oh,
Nice.
we're going to have biscuits and gravy. And they're like, what did you say? And I was like, oh, I mean, biscuits. So anyway, and then now I live in Buffalo, New York, out of all places. So,
Okay. All right. Buffalo.
so
All right.
yeah, let's go Buffalo, go Bills.
Buffalo. Y'all had a winner yesterday, man. Way to go. That guy
Yeah.
dropped the ball.
I know. I was like, you know what? The best defense is the Ravens offense. That's all. So, anyway. Oh goodness. Yeah, gotta love it. So yeah, that's we live and breathe the Bills up there in football and lots of snow. So yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about how STR Insights came to be. Like, what drove you to even start looking into these markets?
Yeah. So I started investing in real estate when in 2018, I bought my first short-term rental property. So I actually went to some I don't know if you guys have ever been to those REI meetings or whatever, the local ones. Yeah, and they're supposed to be informal, but these aren't the bigger pocket meetups or the hip meetups. They're really like REI meetings, you got to be a member or whatever. And it's all these old geezers getting around talking about long-term real estate. And I remember, they're all talking about how many doors and units and all this fun
Yes.
stuff. And
Yeah.
I was like, I want to do real estate investing, but man, this sounds boring. It just sounds like they're trying to, it's almost like slumlord kind of feeling I had in there. And I was like, I really don't want to do this. And there was one guy who was a little bit younger. And he was like, you guys need to do this Airbnb thing. And he was like telling everybody about it. He was so excited about it. And everyone's kind of like, that's like a fad or a trend or something that'll pass. And I was like, I want to hear about this. This guy obviously looks a little more excited. And I've done Airbnb. I had stayed in some Airbnbs. I was like, this is interesting. Tell me about it. And he was telling me how much more he was getting, 3 times the rent of a long-term rental. And I'm like, I just bought a duplex near this area this guy was Airbnb. I was like, I'm going to try it out. Why not? And so that's what I did. I listed on Airbnb, and it did 3 times what I was going to do as a long-term rental. I'm like, I'm onto something here. And so I started to expand my portfolio outside of in Buffalo, but I ran into a problem of like, where should I go after this? You know what I mean? It's like you want to grow and expand, but it's like you only know what you know. And so I really had to sit down and start like gathering research. So my background, I was a data analyst for Citibank. Really boring. But I'm good with numbers and spreadsheets. I'm going to be honest with you. I do kind of what Parker did a little bit. I wasn't underwriting any loans or anything, but like dealing with finances and stuff, it's not sexy to talk about, but it is the nuts and bolts of how we underwrite and do deals. And so I had this like data gathering experience. I was like, what if I could gather housing prices across the country and also look at revenue and put it together to look at what I call gross ROI, meaning like the gross yearly returns of revenue to housing prices all across the country, all the different markets, and it just showed me the best places to invest in. And so that's what I did. I had all these spreadsheets, I put them together, and boom, all these markets popped up. And then I said, okay, well, I'm not interested in investing in the middle of nowhere, Alaska, or Kansas or some of these other places. I want to be, within driving distance and all these other things. And I finally got some property lists together or some markets. And I started investing somewhat near me, in the state, out of the state. And so I started to scale. And so at that point, I was just in some investor groups, and I started telling people about this experience of these spreadsheets. And people were like, oh, can I use them? I was like, yeah, sure. Here you go. Here's the data for free. And people started using them. They started buying properties and doing well. And they're like, Kenny, you have to make this public. This is a game changer in terms of where we should be looking, where we should invest. And so, and they really motivated me to turn it into an actual product, because I had no startup experience. I hate startups. I was like, ugh, as a W-2 employee. And so I finally had the opportunity to take a leap of faith, and start a business and really turn it into something. So, now 3 years later, it's growing, and it kind of changes. We don't from where we started, but from what we originally intended it to be. But that's totally fine. I love where we're at, and how we help people find profitable short-term rental deals today. So
awesome.
Yeah,
that's our story. Back there.
I know.
I love it. No, that's great. Yeah. But that right there, I mean, that's what this is all about. The fact that you're able to do this podcast and have your daughter in the background there. I mean.
Yep. As she turns on the TV, and we'll probably have to edit that out.
Yeah.
I have to do this.
No edit in there.
No.
Tell her to come in and say hi.
Yeah. Come in.
Listen, goodness. Just like Parker mentioned, that's what it's all about. I mean, before we even went live, you were sharing that, obviously you're in Florida right now with your family, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you said you go down there every year, and people want to do that, and you taking the risk is allowing you to do that. But it's something I do want to mention, right? I have a kids real estate and financial literacy academy where I go into school districts, I go into youth organizations, and I teach them, about financial literacy, and I teach them about real estate investing. But more importantly, I also teach them about entrepreneurship. And, I tell them all the time, that you always want to take your wages and turn them into profits. But let me tell you what you said, which I really admired, is that you took your knowledge. So you took what you consider a boring job, right? You worked at Citibank, I believe you said, you was doing some underwriting, and you was great at data. So you took what you learned, you took a skill and turned that into a business where your passion went to. And I just want to say I admire that. And I also want to make sure that listeners understand that there's multiple ways for you to sit there and take your wages, turn them profits, take your knowledge and create, a business off of, what you're passionate about, or something different than in your field. So I really wanted to know about that. But getting right back to, it's called STR Insights, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
All right, cool. So I guess like tell us about like the platform, how people access it, what it looks like, what's the benefits to it.
Yeah. So STR Insights, it's really two things. So it's a data and it's a consulting platform. So we actually have software and data about markets. And so you can literally go in and put in, like, hey, show me top grossing markets, and it'll show you the data on those markets. And then we also have a consulting platform where we actually literally work with people and mentor people one-on-one to find deals. A lot of people are struggling to find, 20, 30% cash on cash deals today. And so our goal is to help people do that. And we do that by just hand holding them through the process. So people come to us all the time like, hey, where can I find deals? And I'm like, you got software you can use, or if you want to cut to the chase, we can help you do it one-on-one. So we had this like new consulting thing we picked up, which is about 3 years in the making. It really just started with software, and now we do both. So yeah.
Awesome.
So all this, and you guys are amazing. I've heard a lot of success stories. We obviously have some clients in common. But where does this data, where do you find this data? Where does this come from? And how do you find all this white? Like, do people come to you with markets that they're looking at, and then you start digging into that, or how does it all come together?
Well, everybody wants to know where they should be going, right? So when they come to talk to me, they're like, hey, I might have an idea of where I want to be, but is that the right market for me? And so it's kind of my job as the data expert, but also the consultant to help people understand what markets are a good fit for them. And I base it off of 3 key things. This is really important. So number 1, their budget, for example, look, we're in Destin, Florida right now. I love Destin, Florida, but I can't afford Destin, Florida. Like I would love to buy here, but I can't afford it. So like I can't invest in this market. Maybe a 1 or 2 bedroom condo, but not the houses that, the one across the street for sale is like listed for 3.5. That's a little bit higher than, try 3x or something, So it's expensive. So it doesn't fit for me. So like budget really can limit where we can actually look and afford to buy. The second one that I talk to people about is understanding their personal goals. Some people want to buy for, like I said, if I could afford Destin, I would buy here simply to have a house here that I could vacation to. Not necessarily needs to make money. Whereas investors, we're doing this to actually make money. And so how much money and is going to impact where we should actually be looking. If we go in some markets that, and I hate picking on particular markets, but I'm going to do it anyway. Whoops. So like, for example, if I'm an investor and I want to go and basically we want to minimize how much money we have to put into a property, but maximize the return potential, I'm not going to go, or I shouldn't be looking in Orlando, Florida. I shouldn't, because it's one of the most saturated markets in the short-term rental industry. And the competition level to get what I call the barrier of entry, meaning the price, not the purchase price point, but the amount of capital to invest in to compete to be at that top tier level, which is what we should be shooting for, is significantly higher. You got to have the themed out. I'm not talking about little princess wallpaper crap. I mean, you got to have like 3D and lights and all this crazy stuff that like 20 arcade machines that are like $10,000 each, it's just stuff that like I don't want to deal with. And so we have to look at that and go, okay, look, this is how much capital I have, and understand like I do want it to be a good investment. And so knowing those 2 key pieces can help me determine particular markets. And then the last one I want to mention is personal preferences, meaning like some people don't want to invest in places like Alaska because it's too far away, or the other side of the country or whatever. A good friend calls it 2 camels and a mule, meaning she doesn't want to take 2 flights and drive 4 hours, to the location. So it's being strategic. And once I get all that information, I'm like, okay, cool. Now here are your options. So it's actually a process of elimination rather than like what's possible, because there's over 12,000 vacation markets in the United States. That's a lot to choose from.
Wow.
So we want to eliminate and then open. Go ahead.
How do you determine vacation markets? Like when you say 12,000, how do you identify those?
That's where the data comes in.
Okay.
So we're looking at, and I know you asked this question a little earlier, like where's the data coming from? So we're looking at Airbnb and VRBO data and looking at housing prices. There's some third-party platforms like Zillow. So think of Zillow or Redfin or something where we're getting median listing home prices of vacation rentals in these markets, taking that data and comparing it to revenue data from Airbnb and VRBO. So now that we have those two things, we can kind of judge, look, is this market affordable and are they making money? Those two things. And then how much money are they making? Rank those markets and then boom, there's your top markets.
Nice.
Oh man, that's some good stuff. All right, so I'm going to ask a little seasoned question, right?
All right, let's do it.
So you can have a market where you can see property A, and property A is doing well, as in all the underwriting match up, the deal pencil out, right? And then you have property B. And when you look at property B versus property A, the property B property is not doing as well from a revenue perspective, maybe because the person who owns property B, they're not putting those $10,000 arcade games in there. They got the wallpaper versus the 3D, items there, however, they purchased this property at a time where their numbers still work for them, right?
Sure.
So how do your data tell me the true number that's real? Because you're going to have property B, which is right around the corner from property A. Property A is like, man, that's a $200,000 revenue property. You got property B that's barely breaking 100K. So how do I know that your data is going to say this market is the right one?
Yeah, so the data updates monthly. So what that allows us to do is we can, as housing prices change, assuming in this example, property B, was bought a few years ago or many years ago. So it's probably a lot higher now. Okay. And then we look at the overall revenue of that market and we can actually show individual properties that are maybe performing well. So you don't necessarily have to base it solely off of the average. You know what I mean? Because the average can be deceptive, right? Especially if they're not putting any effort into the property. I'll give you a really good example. So I bought a property in 2022 at almost the height of the interest rate environment. I got an interest rate in the sevens for a commercial loan. And this is also a height in prices as well. And at my software, STR Insights said, you need to check out Watkins Glen, New York. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'll check out Watkins Glen, New York. I found a property for $350,000. And I was looking in that area and there were some properties there that were maybe doing like 60K. And I was like, okay, like that's okay. Like I think I could do better. And then at that point, I had a decision to make. Either A, I go, okay, I underwrite based on 60K. And then I say, I can potentially do better than that. I think I can do better than the competition just by doing like dynamic pricing and updating my listing and like adding certain amenities, like a hot tub. Nobody has a hot tub in this market. It's a lake market. No one had a hot tub. And so I'm like, okay, well, as an experienced investor, I'm like, I know I can do better. So I feel really, really good about that, but I'm still going to be conservative and underwrite at 60K. Okay. My first year, I did 95,000. Last year, I just did my P&L for, getting all my tax and stuff ready. I checked Airbnb, $123,000 in gross income off a 350 purchase. Yep. So it just kept climbing, but there's actually no data there. Nobody's doing that because they don't have the amenities. They don't have that kind of stuff. But I still underwrote it being conservative and then said, look, if I know I can add these things to help, number one, separate myself and also, just be better than the rest, and I will get booked at a higher rate. And it worked. So there's that element too.
Nice.
Yeah.
You get a boom again for that one.
A boom, yeah. It's that's like one of the I keep like I want to. Part of me wants to sell it because like the equity from like the amount of revenue it's making, but it's like the cash flow is so high off that property that it doesn't make sense to sell it. You know what I mean? Like anyway, we can go. That's a whole nother conversation, but it's just like looking for those number one, I look for markets that I just don't like. Look, I'm lazy. Meaning like I don't want to have to worry about marketing on Facebook and doing dances on TikTok to people to come book my property, right? Like I don't want to do that. Like I already have to embarrass myself enough for my company. So like I don't want to have to do both. So yeah, if you don't follow me on Instagram already, I'm not dancing for my property. I'm dancing for my other business, but lessons of an entrepreneur, and I'm not a dancer. So I'm very white, and so I'll leave it at that. So like I just like for me I'm lazy, meaning like I don't want to go in a market that everybody else is going to. I call it chasing. I don't want to follow the herd. I don't want to chase the herd. I want to go in places where I can be different, still a vacation market, but just not a market that everybody's talking about. And it might not be because it's a sexy, like no one talks about going to the Finger Lakes online and drinking the wine. Yet 4 million people go to the wineries in that area every single year. Okay, it might not be like the best, it might not be from Italy, but they're still going and drinking it. So, it's just like understanding the traffic drivers, why people are going there. And there's a lot of these areas across the country, and you'd be surprised. And it's typically within 4 hours of major cities. So we're about 4 hours from Philadelphia. I get Philadelphia people all the time. So I know we talked about earlier. You're raised in Philly, right? You said so.
Born and raised. Oh yeah, I'm
born and raised. There you go.
40 minutes. Yeah, my mother still lives. I'm so Philly. Nothing against my New Jerseyans or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I'm still so Philly. I'm in Philly all the time. So where I guess how far you said 4 hours away? Where are you talking?
So it's the Finger Lakes of New York. So if you go,
okay. Yes, I'm familiar.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So up in that area. Yeah, I mean, New York City, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Rochester, obviously the entire state of New Jersey can get grouped into that. Philadelphia, we get people from. But there's other places around the country that are near a major city that just aren't these like big, sexy markets, that people talk about all the time, like the Orlandos or the Nashvilles or the Scottsdales or Tahoes of the country. So anyway, that's what the data can show you.
Yeah, and that's where, so I think that's where my husband and I, when we invested, we're in Townsend, so we're not in Centerville, Pigeon Forge. We found Townsend, which is 30 minutes for those listening. It's about 30 minutes from Pigeon Forge and about 45 minutes from Gatlinburg. And Navarre, while you're in Florida, if you haven't been to Navarre, I'd love to get your take on it if you guys have a chance to run over and see it. But again, it's like just outside of the major market, but it's the same beach, beautiful area, but less expensive, easier to stand out. We actually have a townhouse in a row of 4 there, and the other 3 are managed by the same management company. And we did 193 last year, 193,000 gross. And I think our neighbor was like 130. And he's like, what did you do? And I was like, well, we didn't use a management company.
There's the secret sauce. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but yeah, to your point, like finding those little kind of pockets or places where you're comfortable, where you love and can see the potential there. And then, like educated risk.
Yeah. I'm very conservative. And so like, even if I walk into somewhere and I'm like, look, this is all run by property management, it's all garbage, I can beat this, I still underwrite based on those numbers, because it's all, you're almost guessing to figure out what it can go up to, right? So, and I see a lot of people make that mistake where they're like, well, I think it can do that. But it's like, maybe it could do more, and they start underwriting on those numbers, and it's all hypothetical. So we want to make sure in the conservative standpoint, it makes sense. And then the cherry on top is when you make more money. So, yeah.
Yes.
No, I really love the 3. I wrote them down here just for the listeners or the viewers might be looking. But 1, you said budget, you said personal, 2 personal goals, and 3 personal preferences is where 3. And you know what? They all make sense, because a lot of people tend to follow the herd. So wherever the herd is going, they follow. And a lot of people tend to make it work, meaning they either get some investors to get them that money to go buy those properties for the 3.4 million that you mentioned, Kenny, across the street from where you're staying at today, or or they have the money, they leverage everything that they have, to get these things. But understanding budget, understanding your goals, understanding personal preference, dude, I couldn't say that any better. I think that's like gold. You got to highlight, that's like platinum stuff right there.
Yeah.
How minimum it is platinum, to me. But I do want to mention just about budgets, right? And obviously budget is something that either keep you going or not. I guess maybe this is a tough question to ask, but hopefully you can work with me here. But what are some budget friendly areas that you would sit here and suggest people to start looking into? And I
Okay.
understand that budget friendly is relative to the pocketbook, but
Yeah.
I hope you understand what I mean by budget friendly.
Okay, let's start with so typically how I break things down. Guys, I actually have a free report. I can send out the link if people want it. It's free top markets across the country based on
Oh, cool.
destination type and budget. Go figure.
Yeah.
So I could send that to you guys too. It's free download. Any listeners want it, it's
Cool.
just a
Thank
download. So but really, so understanding low budget, now it really comes down to destination type. So destination type, there's mountains, there's urban markets, there's beach markets, there's national parks, there's lakes and ski. So it can kind of vary. So what I like to do in this case, I'll just kind of skip around different areas of the country, like I said, and that hopefully that kind of catches all of our listeners who are listening in on this in terms of like if it would make sense for them. So in terms of like, let's start with beach markets because those are probably like the most popular ones, right? Like everybody wants to typically. I'll start with those. So the most affordable beach markets with the best ROI. Keep that in mind. Best ROI. Okay.
Best ROI.
Number one, and these aren't necessarily sexy places. All right. So keep that disclaimer alert. So this is all purely investment. This isn't lifestyle. So don't turn this off once I shout out a market. It's purely based on numbers.
The anticipation still.
The anticipation. Okay, I guess I should back up. I want to save the number one for like all the last, so it's like in suspense. All right, so top. Let's do like three. Let me think of a third one real quick. I know. So number one, I would definitely say Myrtle Beach area in South Carolina, which it's a vacation market, and that's not like too grotesque of a market to tell people you've invested in, but it is very affordable. And I love the tax breaks there too. I mean, people can buy $150,000 condos there. I mean, you can get into that market and update the property and stand out. Property management there is pretty low in terms of the quality. Myrtle Beach is actually ranked, this is crazy, one of the lowest rated in terms of reviews, lowest rated market in the country for vacation markets. So that means like the places are kind of bad. So like to compete against. So it's affordable and easy to compete there, and it's a good solid beach market. Let's see, another one. Well, maybe a little bit more expensive, but still somewhat affordable, is kind of a beach area, is Bradenton, Florida. I really like that one.
Where?
Bradenton, Florida, so south of Tampa.
Oh, Bradenton.
I've been doing a lot of financing for properties in Bradenton.
Yep. So Bradenton, Sarasota is right there as well. Really like that area. It's growing. It's not just a vacation market. You also have IMG Academy. That school, it's a sports school where all the athletes go in high school that are aspiring to be D1 in college or NFL, NBA, whatever. They've got a big sports presence program down there. And then finally, drum roll on this one. This is probably one of the best beach markets in the country, is the Gulf Coast of Mississippi. You heard it here first. So I mean, people are like, who vacations there? People vacation there, believe it or not. There is a casino there. I think there's an Air Force base down there somewhere too, but it's very, very affordable. And there's a good ROI there, just strong ROI. It's not like it's continuing to grow. Even as a vacation area, just getaway for people in Alabama, Mississippi, especially in Louisiana. It is a good beach market to affordable and ROI beach market to invest into. So
That's good. Now, Kenny, real quick, ROI, like give me a range of what you're saying when you say a really good ROI.
So when I talk
A range.
ROI, yeah, range. So there I'm seeing anywhere from like 15 to 20%, meaning
Oh
like
wow,
we took the gross rents, divide that by the purchase price, and that gives me a gross ROI that's 15 to 20% of the purchase price is the revenue. So
nice.
yeah, yeah, they're good. It's very good. I wouldn't pay for anything there more than $500,000 in that market. So
Like in a
keep
mansion.
it. You could. You very much could. Mountain markets, because not everybody likes beaches. Red River Gorge in Kentucky, that's a good area, very affordable. I personally like West Virginia. That's got to be the number one, actually, probably the best markets in the country overall. But now we're talking 20 to 23% gross ROI in West Virginia. Um, if you can stomach the idea of and put any biasness of being in West Virginia aside, it is a great investable market. That's the thing. A lot like these markets I'm telling you guys about, they're not sexy. They're not things you're going to go brag about to your friends on Facebook. Look at this sexy house I bought in West Virginia. People are going to be like, where? Like what? West Virginia, like ding 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 ding, like that kind of stuff. And but the numbers are there. People travel there, all the state parks, and they're near major cities too. It's just one of those things where if you pull, I know a guy from San Diego. He's bought like 10 properties in West Virginia, all small, little like A-frames and small cabins, like $200,000, $250,000, and they're all doing like 80, 90K. It's insane. And it's all very possible, and the competition's just not there. So I don't, yeah. Anyway, it'll probably pick up in popularity after everyone hears it on the podcast now, right?
It's
There
well,
you
So,
go.
it's funny you
yeah.
say that, Kenny, because I actually have 3 clients. I'm doing some cash out refis and stuff on their properties in West Virginia, and yeah, they've done 70, 80,000, and these properties are like $230,000.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely caught my eye. I'm like, all right, what am I missing here in West Virginia? So I'm glad you said
Interesting.
that. And Red River Gorge. So my husband found a cheap old hickory table on Facebook Marketplace the other day, and so he drove to Kentucky 4 hours to get it. And he called me. He's like, "Oh my gosh, Kentucky's really pretty." He was in the Red River
Yeah.
Gorge area. And I said, "Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it is."
Yeah, it
So
is.
interesting that you mentioned that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So Red River Gorge is solid. Ohio's got some decent areas too, like Hocking Hills even could be is decent. It's a little pricier though. But and then for West Coast people, it's tough out there. I get it. Prices, insurance, everything. But if you move a little bit east, kind of go central U.S., South Dakota near Keystone, or sorry, Mount Rushmore. The town is called Keystone. Near Mount Rushmore National Park. That's a really good. It's very mountainous there. That's a good
Wow.
affordable mountain market. So yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I
And
once
and
again, go ahead.
and just to be safe, like all these markets, they got enough boots on the ground out there, cleaning teams, maintenance, all that stuff is good.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, all of these markets. I mean, there's millions of people that go through these areas. Millions. Even West Virginia. Okay. Red River Gorge. It's actually. It probably wouldn't say millions. I'd probably say closer to like I think it's like 600,000 to 800,000. Yeah. So like they're going to have, even then, they're going to have the infrastructure. And all of these markets have at least 200, 300, 400 active short-term rentals in them. So it's
Okay.
about, yeah. So like to answer the question, yes, there are plenty of resources in these areas.
Mhm.
Awesome.
So yeah,
This
cool.
is good
Any
stuff.
other
I
areas
mean,
you guys care? I mean, I could keep listing. I mean, we could go all day. There's a lot of markets. So
no,
I'm happy to provide more, but
I have a good
yeah.
question. Where are you? Because obviously you're watching home prices too. Are you starting to see any pattern of decline in home prices, any particular area?
Well, I think so. We helped last year alone, we helped 104 clients find properties. So,
wow.
uh, we, I would probably say 90% of them got some sort of like price reduction with their offer, seller credit, some sort of concession to sweeten the deal on all of those properties. And so I would say that like but it's happening all over, even the smoky, even the big popular markets. I'm seeing a lot of opportunity. The biggest thing that we can do as short-term rental investors is make money on the buy. That's really, really
Yes.
important. If you could take away everything just one thing you can learn from me today, and everyone should already know this, but just remember this. Your focus should be making money on the buy. Do not try to just buy at the peak market and hope that the cash flow is going to be enough. Okay. We want to buy something under, and there's lots of ways to do that through negotiating. I like the realtor. I know you guys heard of the NAR settlement with the realtors and everything,
Yes.
where they changed some of the stuff. So
yeah.
I personally actually really like that because it's given the buyer power to negotiate a lot more, like a lot more weapons in the arsenal. The reason why a lot of people don't like it is because they're worried that the sellers aren't going to pay any commissions and all this other stuff. But that doesn't matter. It's just negotiating with the seller, and then the agent is there to facilitate that. And so I'm going to be honest with you guys, like we're cutting agents' commissions down, and they're agreeing to it just to get the deals better. Yeah. So before it was like the 3%'s already baked in, and it is what it is. But now we're going to the table saying, look, like we're in a deadlock with the seller. We want the price here. And they're saying, we want it at X, they're at Y. If we cut your commission just a hair and we get it down to Z and meet in the middle, everybody wins. The agents are going for it, And so I just like negotiating and really making money on the buy should be like one of the top priorities for all of us. And that's how we're getting some of the really, really good deals out there, whether it's, like I said, the credits or the concessions or whatever. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's some amazing stuff. I mean, listen, listeners, it don't get any better than that. I mean, look, we got the three things you should think about, right? Budget, personal goals, preference, right? Personal preference. He gave, I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm not going to say the names. I want you to rewind the episode and listen to the names. He gave you 5 markets that's given amazing returns, gave advice, say, hey, top out at 500K, so all these properties are there. I don't know what else you want. Right? At this time, because the major question always is, where should I, purchase? And he gave you a framework, right? And then he gave you 5 different markets. They are all different markets. Kenny, would you say that they're all like totally different markets?
Yeah. So, hopefully I try to diversify it a little bit, but yeah, they are very different around the country. But I'm going to be honest, like, I just want to say this, like, you can invest in your backyard. You just gotta, the way you invest, how you do it, it's going to have to be, it'll look different than somebody else. There isn't some like boiler template plate that's going to work here and over here and over here all at the same time. It's going to be unique, and it's going to be based on your goals, budget, and preferences. And that's really important. And that should really shape how and what you actually invest in. So, yeah.
Great stuff, man. Great stuff. Man, Kenny, it seems like we could talk to you on and on and on and on and on, but hey, we got a question for you. What does find your freedom means to you?
Find your freedom. I think it's this understanding of knowing what your why is. I'm sure you guys have talked about this before or had people talk about this, like what's your why, like what's driving you, like how would you personally define freedom for you? And sometimes freedom isn't necessarily like leaving your W-2 job. Okay. It might be in like having the flexibility to leave it or cutting back. But it's basically this ability in my head to define and control your own destiny, your own life. Live your life the way you want to live it. And I don't think it's something, I'm not a big believer in this. This stuff doesn't just happen overnight. You got to hustle. You got to put in the effort, the research, the dedication, and you have to have a burning desire. Find your freedom. Like when I think of it, I love that term because, or that phrase, because it's really about finding that desire to reach some sort of goal that's going to change your life. A lot of people want to change their lives. A lot of people want to leave their jobs or want to spend more time with their family. You don't hear a lot of people saying, I need to. You need to get to that point. When I got to that point, a year and a half before I left my job. I said, I was watching some other entrepreneurs. I went to some mastermind meeting, and the day we were leaving, I was packing up to go, and I had taken like 3 days off from work, and I was like, okay, I gotta get back home and everything, go back to work, you know. And everybody there was extending their stay because they were gonna go, they're excited to go check out properties together and go hang out. And I was just like, how the heck they're doing? And then they had built the life that they could do that with. They were in full-time real estate investors or entrepreneurs. And I just the fire burned in me because of, obviously jealousy that they could do that flexibility to do that. And I was like, I'm going to get there in 5 years. I'm going to quit my job in 5 years. A year and a half later, I turned in my notice.
Nice.
Okay. And it's all about that fire, you know, that desire. So it's not, I want to this, it's, I need to do that. That's how you find your freedom.
That's powerful. Yeah.
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. I mean, look, STR Insights, where it's at. You know, but
there you go.
Obviously, people going to listen to this episode. They're going to be inspired and motivated to move forward. So they're going to need a little help, little assistance. How can they find you? How can they follow you?
Yeah, for sure. So first off, I'll give you guys that link to the top markets report that you can just publish in the show notes or wherever you want it. But obviously you can go to strinsights.com or just go follow me on social media. Reach out to me. I want to talk. I love helping people. My favorite thing in life is to teach. It's not to talk about data. It's actually to teach people. Teach people about data is the same thing. But I want to help. And so I love it when people message me on Instagram or Facebook at Kenny_Bedwell. Reach out to me if you have questions. Hey, Kenny, I heard this, and I'd love to know what you think about my situation. I will tell you straight up. I'm very frank. So don't think you're going to get any sugarcoat message from me. So I'm very direct. I tell people how it is. If you're like, I'm thinking about investing here, I'll tell you straight up. Now, publicly, I might not do that with a lot of people, like publicly, but if you private message me, I can be a little more direct, and I'm nice though, but you know, just tell you how it is. Because I think we need more of that in this industry. So
Agreed. Hey, you know, we're coming to the end of our show, and I'm a little sad right now because, you know, like I said, talking to you is great.
Thank you.
You know, the energy you have, the knowledge you have, what you're sharing with the listeners is just all amazing. And I just would love to continue this conversation, but you know, everything have to come to a halt, right? So this is where we do our big boom session. So what we're going to do in a uniform manner, I'm going to count to 3, 1, 2, 3, and all three of us is going to say boom and hold the boom as long as we can. Y'all ready?
Yes.
All right.
Or as long as we can. So like we just like hold it out. Like
yeah, just hold it, brother. Hold it.
All right. I'm standing, so I want to give it like a boom like that. Right?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Right there.
All right.
I've got lungs on him. I've been hiking with him in high elevation, and he's gonna hold this for a long time.
Okay. All right. I'll sing it too. So no, there's
all right. Let's go. All right. All right. 1, 2, 3. Boom! Awesome. Check this out.
Okay.
We just had an amazing episode with our guy, Kenny Bedwell, STR Insights. Look, the number one question everyone asks is, where should I invest? Well, guess what? STR Insights is here. STR Insights is a place where you should start. And then Kenny, nice as he is, said, look, follow him on Instagram. If you see something out there, send him a DM. And he will sit here and give you his honest, truthful, straightforward opinion on what he believes. But listen to this episode a few times. There's so much information to take in. Sit back, drink some coffee, some tea, have a drink if you need to. Take this in, because these are the episodes that you're going to look back and say, that Kenny Bedwell episode is what changed my life. So when you're on our platform, when you're sitting here years ahead and we bring you on, we're going to say, how did you get here? You're going to say, listen, I listened to Find Your Freedom, and that Kenny Bedwell episode was the one. I'm telling you, you know, because he's just a regular guy just like us, has a family, loves his family, loves what he's doing, and just sitting there trying to provide and have a better life. So I strongly suggest that you 100% follow him, 100% go on to STR Insights, because that's 100% where it's at. And listen, we need you to also leave us an honest 5-star review, because that's how we are able to bring on more Kenny Bedwells onto the platform. And share this with all your friends, your family, your sister, your brother, your aunt, your uncle, your cousin. Share it with your coworkers, the ones that you like and the ones that you don't like. Now, until the next episode of Find Your Freedom, we talk to you soon. Peace.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to Find Your Freedom. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. While you're at it, please help us spread the word by leaving a rating and review and sharing the podcast with friends, family, and colleagues. Until next time, get out there and find your freedom.